Thank you. I haven't gotten any today. Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to the Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour we here are one gathered congregation and all are welcome. Please rise and body your spirit to join in singing our musical call to worship, which is There Is More Love, hymn number 95 in our gray hymnal, and they'll also appear on the screen, I believe. Thank you. I really enjoy that accompaniment. Brian and Brian? My name is Marcia Kristen, and I am the lay leader for today. I use she, her pronouns. I have brownish hair, and I wear glasses, and I am a grandma of a cute little granddaughter named Isla, along with my husband, Glenn, who is grandpa. Because of Jessica, actually, our speaker today, I get to be a guest faculty member at the Chaplaincy Institute, where a lot of UUs go, and I am ever thankful for that chance. I get to share restorative practices and nonviolent communication there with all kinds of interfaith to be chaplains. And I am very glad that our speaker this morning is our beloved member, Jessica Demick. She and I serve on the Healthy Communications Committee, and she's been a longtime member with her family. Jessica identifies as a woman with German, English, and Scottish and Guatemalan roots. Some of the other identities include wife, mother, daughter, sister, friend, medical patient, practitioner of curiosity, and lover of walking and cooking plant-based meals. Not walking and cooking at the same time, but cooking plant-based meals. She considers herself a student of grief, valuing it as one of her most important spiritual practices. And if you are visiting this morning, we invite you to participate as you feel comfortable, and that is a very sincere offering. If you're here in person, we look forward to welcoming you after the service during our coffee hour. And if you're attending online, you can introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like to. For those of you who are here in the sanctuary, we are bringing up that there's often quite a number of people online that you don't realize are there. And so we really love that increases accessibility to this community, and are very thankful that there's a lot more than just the folks that are here. And if you are here in the sanctuary this morning, please silence your electronic devices if you haven't already done so. It's even not a bad time to double check. The announcements are available in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle, and you can read those. And I want to pause for a moment, an intentional pause, before we do the land acknowledgement, just to be in that place of sort of honoring those words that we speak at the request of the Suquamish people. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's central Salish Sea, as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Thank you. And I want to welcome Michael Hughes to come up and light our chalice this morning. And to give you a little bit about Michael, he began attending KUUF in 2015 and became a member in 2020. He serves on the Welcoming and Membership Committee and the Committee on Shared Ministry. He says he was unclear on what kind of community he was looking for when he began attending, but found himself unconditionally welcomed here. That's such a joy. So you can join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, you can light it as I read our words this morning by Ian W. Riddell. Come one, come all. Come with your missing pieces and your extra screws. Come with your hard edges and your soft spots. Come with your bowed heads and your upright spines. Come all you flamboyant and drab, verbose and quiet fidgeting and lethargic. All you with large vision and tender hearts. All you with small courage and tender fears. Bring your lisp and your stutter and your song. Bring your gravel and your drawl and your lilt. Bring your anger and your joy and your righteous indignation. Misfits and conformists and everyone in between, come into the space and be welcome. Bring who you are. Bring where you have traveled. Bring what you long for, and let us worship together. Thank you. And now we can join in the spoken affirmation together. The words will appear on the screen. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. And now our next hymn is I've Got Peace Like a River. This is number 100. And this simple song reflects what many of us long for these days. Moving, active, forceful peace, joy, love, to help us through the pain and the tears, to help give us towering strength. There are a lot of hard days, and we need peace. Not like a stagnant pond, but like a moving, thriving, ever-changing river. So please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing hymn number 100, I've Got Peace Like a River, in the gray hymnal.
Good morning. This morning I am wearing what they call a boho dress and a magenta cardigan. This is Memorial Day weekend. So some of you may not know the history of Memorial Day weekend. So I thought I would share that little bit of history before I tell today's story. In May of 1865, the Civil War had just ended, and Memorial Day didn't look like it does now. There were no 3-day weekends, there were no sales, there was no day off school, there weren't cookouts, people weren't getting together for the unofficial start of summer. What did happen is that it was May 5th, 1865, and it was just a Friday. And on this particular Friday, the story goes that a group of teachers, ministers, and newly freed slaves and abolitionists felt called to show their gratitude to the Union soldiers who had perished in an open-air Confederate prison. The group of newly freed slaves began gathering things like flowers, made wreaths and flags, and set out to decorate the graves of the fallen soldiers. This tradition continued, and eventually it was made into a holiday on May 30th, a date that was chosen because it was not the anniversary of any particular battle. So eventually, again, it changed. It was called Decoration Day, and then at the end of World War II was replaced with Memorial Day. The name was officially adopted in 1967 and made a national holiday in 1968. So that is the history, something I did not know. So I thought I would share in case you did not know. But today, the children up in the Manton building are going to be exploring the different ways we honor Memorial Day now. For some, it's about honoring bravery of those who have gone to war and died. And while for others, it's about honoring how people have lost ones they love. Today's story is Memorial Day for Kids. Memorial Day is a special day to remember heroes in a special way. A day to pause and recall the brave men and women who gave their all. We come together to honor the brave and thank them for the sacrifice they gave. We remember the soldiers for all they've done, for their service and the battles they won. From Bunker Hill to Normandy shore, they fought with valor and so much more. Some heroes fought in the air and some in the sea, some on land fighting for you and me. We honor their bravery and show our respect and learn to cherish freedom with every step. We place flowers and flags at their grave to honor their memory, so strong and brave, their service, their sacrifice and devotion, forever remembered with sincere emotion. We also pray for those who still serve today, for their safety and well-being as they protect the way. With parades and flags, we march with pride for those who fought and bravely died. We cheer and shout as bands go by with drums and trumpets reaching the sky. Flags flying high in red, white, and blue, patriotic pride in our hearts anew. The fireworks light up the night, a spectacular display of red, blue, and white. We watch in awe as the bright colors ignite and remember our heroes with all our might. Their courage and bravery will never die. Their legacy will always live on, way up high. So however you choose to honor Memorial Day, I hope that you enjoy this 3-day weekend. And with that, please join me in singing our children out to the Manton building.
Now it's a time for our offering. We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. And together our light is much brighter than a solitary flame. So now is the time in our service when we share in the sacred act of giving, an expression of gratitude transformed into generosity that breathes life into our mission. As part of our mission that inspires us to act on our beliefs, we share our weekly offering with a local nonprofit agency providing services within our larger community. And our charitable giving recipient for the month of May is Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center, or KAYAK. In a moment, our ushers will move among us with baskets to collect the offering, and donations placed in the basket will go to KAYAK. If you'd like your offering to be used for KUUF, please use one of the envelopes provided to you in the order of service when you came into the sanctuary. And for those of us joining us online, you can go to our website, kuuf.org, and select the Giving tab for PayPal and mailing information. And if this is your first time at KUF, feel free to let the basket pass because your presence really is your gift. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our beloved community, which is sacred to us. And we get to enjoy a gift of music from our music coordinator, Bran Kenny, accompanied along with Justin Connor on the violin. Thank you so much. Now is the time for our joys and sorrows. And I know normally we say when shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows are lessened. And for some reason, it's kind of coming through today that it's a place for our joys and our sorrows to be held and have some presence for them to be. And we have two today. We have a joy from Brian Watson. He writes that my wife, Liz Roberts, and I are celebrating living in our home for 30 years this weekend. Wow. And he says, we love this community. I love that celebration. And this is a sorrow or an ask for healing. This is for Joe as he hopes for healing and for his family and ours. And this is from, I've lost my pronunciation, the Ambergays, correct? Okay. Thank you. And we light a candle specifically for Memorial Day for all those lost in wars. And our pastoral prayer today is in this honor. Spirit of life, today we pause to reflect on the sacrifice made by those who paid the ultimate price on behalf of our nation. Their sacrifices are never forgotten, nor is the pain of their families. Guide us toward a more peaceful and harmonious existence as we honor those who are willing to give up their lives that we may gather here today freely. On this Memorial Day, we pray for peace and for those who gave all. May we work together to create a world where no one must give their lives in pursuit of freedom. Amen. And we light one last candle for all those joys and sorrows that are too tender to share. And please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life, which is hymn number 123 from our gray hymnal, and the words will also appear on the screen. Now I'd like to invite Maya Demick to come do our reading, which will be followed by our post-reflection music featuring Brian Kenny and Justin Connor.
So this is a poem called In Blackwater Woods, and it's by Mary Oliver. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away. The blue shoulders of the ponds, and every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go.
Good morning. I'm Jessica, and I am 41. I have light brown hair, and I use she, her pronouns, and today I'm wearing a purple sweater. When the pastoral care team was asked if we would be willing to provide a sermon today on grief, I had an incongruent internal response. The logical, practical part of me said, no thank you, I don't enjoy speaking in front of large groups, especially during the past year and a half when health issues have left me feeling quite vulnerable. But my heart said, grief? Yes, I can do this. This is familiar territory. And actually, grief is often the place that I feel closest to the divine, which is why Oscar Wilde's words, where there is sorrow, there is holy ground, resonate with me so much. Grieving is the most practiced of my spiritual practices. Speaking of practice, most of this sermon will be spent doing a grief ritual, reflecting on and possibly connecting with our own grief. Before we move into this practice, however, I wanted to share a few words about my own relationship to grief. I used to feel uncertain, embarrassed, and even ashamed about the depth of my grief, like something was wrong with me. Being a highly sensitive empath, I experienced myself as taking things harder than most people and not bouncing back as easily or quickly. This led to sometimes feeling like I was all alone in my grief, without much of a place to put it or a framework for understanding it. And then a few years ago, I came across a book that would become one of my personal sacred texts called The Wilde Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller, in which he talks about the sacred work of grief. We will explore this further in a moment, but I first wanted to share with you a short excerpt from another piece of writing that had a profound impact on how I viewed grief. Professional humorist and author Firuza Dumas wrote in an essay after a devastating life event, I came to understand that the depth of grief is equal to one's capacity to love. We should hold dear those who grieve, for they are also the ones who love fiercely. I'm going to read that one more time. I came to understand that the depth of grief is equal to one's capacity to love. We should hold dear those who grieve, for they are also the ones who love fiercely. I felt my self-perception and my relationship to grief shift in the moments after reading these words. I could give myself permission to grieve deeply because I also gave myself permission to love deeply. And now when I think about our congregation here at KUUF, I think of community, justice work, belonging, friendship, and love. Definitely love. Love for one another as well as love for our wider world. Then I got to thinking, if we love deeply here, and in my experience we do, we come together in the practice of love, might we also come together in the practice of grieving, creating a space to tend to our own grief and the grief of our friends and spiritual companions? Can we as a community regularly and reverently practice the sacred work of grieving? I'd like to invite us to try today. In his book, The Wilde Edge of Sorrow, Francis Weller provides a framework for 5 different types of grief. This concept had a profound impact for my own personal spiritual practice because I was able to identify different kinds of grief and explore how to tend to them. I could care for each one individually or a combination of them together. This was healing and brought clarity and connection to my grief in a way that I hadn't experienced before. I even made this candle holder so that I could direct light to a particular gate or gates when I wanted to light a candle. And on the bottom, I burned the Oscar Wilde quote. So today, hopefully you all have a rock with you. If you don't, I think that there's can be some help getting those out. So feel free to raise your hand if you don't have a rock and you would like to have one. Thank you, greeters. I invite you to hold your rock however it feels comfortable, in your open-facing palm, with your fingers closed around it, in both hands or one, against your heart, in your lap, wherever feels right. I'm going to read excerpts for each of the 5 gates from Weller's book. After each one, I will pause and invite you into a minute of reflection. You may close your eyes if it's comfortable, and then summon any grief that comes up for you under that particular gate. It may come as images in your mind, or emotions, or even physical sensations. Your rock can hold all of these. At the end of our practice, you will be invited to come forward and place your rock in this communal bowl, and together our grief will be submerged in the sacred element of water, nourishing and cleansing. After the service, I will pour the water outside on a tree on our beautiful grounds and return the rocks to Reverend Victoria's office, where they will safely rest until we need them again. The first gate. Everything we love, we will lose. This is a painful truth. To accept this fact is to live on life's terms and not to try and deny the simple truth of loss, what the Buddhists call impermanence. When we acknowledge grief, we acknowledge that everything we love, we will lose, no exceptions. Now, of course, we want to argue this point, saying that we will keep in our hearts the love of those who depart this earth before us, our parents, or our spouse, or our children, or our friends. And yes, that is true. It is grief, however, that allows the heart to stay open to this love, to remember sweetly the ways these people touched our lives. My grief says that I dared to love, that I allowed another to enter the very core of my being and find a home in my heart. Grief is akin to praise. It is how the soul recounts the depth to which someone has touched our lives. To love is to accept the rights of grief. This gate not only includes the loss of a loved one, but also illness, aging, relocating, changing work, and other life transitions that include loss. I invite you to close your eyes, feel the solidness of your rock, and notice what's coming up for you around this gate of grief. You might just sit quietly with your rock, surrounded by this community, or you might release any thoughts, feelings, or sensations into the rock, or you might receive grounding energy from the rock. This is an invitation to be present with grief in whatever way feels right to you in this moment. The second gate, the places that have not known love. There is another entrance to grief, a second gateway, different from the gate connected to losing someone or something that we love. This grief occurs in the places often untouched by love. These are profoundly tender places because they have lived outside of kindness, compassion, warmth, or welcome. These are the places within us that have been wrapped in shame and banished to the farthest shores of our lives. Regrets are another part of the second gate. those choices we made that hindered or harmed others or ourselves, the unlived life of abandoned dreams, friendships that withered and died, or the decision to withdraw our hearts from the world and neither receive or offer love. These things we regret are sources of deep and abiding loss. To live with regret is a heavy sadness. Regrets require the soft hands of self-compassion. Grief is a powerful solvent, capable of softening the hardest of places in our hearts. When we truly weep for ourselves and those places of shame, we have invited the first soothing waters of healing to wash through our souls. Grieving, by its very nature, confirms worth. I am worth crying over. My losses matter. I invite you to close your eyes, feel the solidness of your rock, and notice what's coming up for you around this gate. The third gate, the sorrows of the world. The third gate of grief opens when we register the losses of the world around us. Whether or not we consciously recognize it, the daily diminishment of species, habitats, and cultures is noted in our psyches. Much of the grief we carry is not personal, but shared, communal. Our extended home is being eroded. It is essential that we stop and acknowledge these losses. It is our spiritual responsibility to do so. We all share in the communal cup of loss, and in it, we find our deep kinship with one another and the living world. That is the alchemy of grief, the great and abiding ecology of the sacred, once again showing us what the indigenous soul has always known. We are of the earth. I invite you to close your eyes, feel the solidness of your rock, and notice what's coming up for you around this gate. Fourth gate, what we expected and did not receive. There is another gate to grief, one difficult to identify, yet is very present in each of our lives. This threshold into sorrow calls forward the things we may not even realize we have lost. At the core of this grief is our longing to belong. This longing is wired into us by necessity. It assures our safety and our ability to extend out into the world with confidence. This feeling of belonging is rooted in the village, and at times our extended families. We may not even know we have missed these experiences until we receive them. Instead of being asked, what do you do for a living? Or how do you earn a living? As if that's connected to our worth, we might be asked, what is the gift you carry in your soul? What have you brought with you into the heart of the village? We long to feel cosmically significant, that it matters we are here, and that we make a difference. I invite you to close your eyes, feel the solidness of your rock, and notice what's coming up for you around this gate. The fifth gate, ancestral grief. The fifth gate of grief is ancestral grief. This is the grief we carry in our bodies from sorrows experienced by our ancestors. Much of this grief lingers in a layer of silence, unacknowledged. Ancestral grief speaks to the grief that remains in our collective soul for the abuses of millions of individuals. It carries the weight of our genocide of the indigenous cultures that were encountered when European settlers arrived in this land. It speaks to the shameful legacy of slavery and to the killing fields of the Civil War. This grief carries the shadow of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It carries the suffering of many cultures across the planet whose paths collided with the march of progress. All this weighs on our psyches. Another facet of ancestral grief revolves around the loss of the ancestors. We no longer look to our ancestors as a source of connection with the invisible powers in the world. In a very real way, we have lost our connection to the land, language, imagination, rituals, songs, and stories of our ancestors. Doing the healing work of acknowledging our ancestors can provide a ballast for our lives, restoring a missing foundation, allowing us to move more deeply into relationship with the wider world. I invite you to close your eyes, feel the solidness of your rock, and notice what's coming up for you around this gate. And now let us move into the last part of our ritual. I invite you to participate in closing our practice by coming forward, either in body or spirit, and place your rock in the bowl of water. The ushers will help guide the process for each row. And please sing along as you feel moved to our song, I Am Sending You Light by Melanie DeMore. The words will appear on the screens.
To hold you, I am sending you light. To hold you in love. No matter where you go, no matter where you've been, you'll never walk alone. I feel you deep within. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. No matter what you feel or what you choose to show, I'm always there for you, and so I want you to know I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I walk the path with you. Go slow, dear one, don't hurry. I'll go just like you need to go. There is no need to worry. I am sending you light to heal, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
You may have noticed that the Sorrow of the World candle went out quickly. It's one that I light frequently. So thank you, Beth, for bringing a new candle. And also I have some rocks here for people that might be watching on the camera, and if you participated at home, that's wonderful. In case you didn't, I'm going to put some in the bowl for you. And because it's important to dance after we grieve, and then eat also, we're going to do just maybe the first verse, Brian, of Let It Be a Dance, and then we'll move into our final closing. So please rise in body or spirit to sing the first verse of our closing hymn, number 311, Let It Be a Dance. The words will appear on the screen.
Let it be a dance.
After our service today, please exit through the foyer. Coffee and tea and our end of the month potluck will be served in the foyer. You're welcome to bring your beverage and food back into the sanctuary if you wish. We welcome the help of anyone who wants to help set up tables for the potluck. Maya, would you come forward to extinguish the chalice? Thank you. Our closing words this morning are by author J. Mike Fields. Grief isn't an immediate problem to solve, but rather a weight that stays in motion within a person. When it strikes, it asks to be heard, felt, but not necessarily understood. It stands between light and shadow, and in this in-between, we learn to live.